Chapter 1, Will You Marry Me? Welcome back, beautiful people. We're officially in part 4, and if you thought part 3 was intense, buckle up because we're about to take this story to a whole new level. When we left off, Diana had just pulled off the most brilliant comeback of her life, from empty portfolio to standing ovation, from disowned daughter to competition champion. Nari was fuming, and Diana was heading to the bathroom with her stepsister following close behind. Now it's time for these two to have a little chat. Let's get into it. The bathroom door swung closed behind Diana with a soft click. She walked calmly to the row of pristine white sinks, her heels clicking against the marble floor in measured, unhurried steps. The restroom was as luxurious as the rest of the Jae Corporation building, floor-to-ceiling mirrors, expensive hand soap in elegant dispensers, fresh flowers in crystal vases. The kind of bathroom that costs more to maintain than most people's monthly rent. Diana turned on the faucet and began washing her hands with careful, deliberate movements. The water was perfectly temperature-controlled. The soap smelled like jasmine and money. She counted in her head. 3, 2, 1. The bathroom door burst open. Diana didn't turn around. She didn't flinch. She just continued washing her hands, watching Nari's reflection appear in the mirror behind her, a vision of barely contained fury in her expensive navy dress, her perfectly styled hair slightly disheveled from her angry pursuit. "Oh, Nari." Diana's voice was honey-sweet as she glanced at her stepsister's reflection. "Did you need to use the restroom too? Would you like to wash your hands? The soap here is really nice, it smells like." "Drop the act." Nari's voice was icy and sharp. The voice of a woman who had been publicly humiliated and was desperately searching for someone to blame. Diana blinked innocently, turning off the faucet with gentle fingers. "Act? What act?" "Uni, I don't understand what you're—" "I said drop it." Nari stormed forward until she was standing directly behind Diana, their eyes meeting in the mirror. "Stop pretending to be this innocent little flower. Stop acting like you don't know exactly what you did out there." Diana reached for a paper towel and began drying her hands with infuriating slowness. "I'm sorry, Uni. I really don't know what you're talking about. I just presented my designs and—" "Your designs?" Nari's laugh was sharp and bitter. "You expect me to believe that you just happened to have a completely different collection ready? That you just happened to have a backup portfolio? That your friend just happened to show up at the exact right moment?" Diana continued drying her hands, her expression one of confused concern. "Uni, you're scaring me. Are you feeling okay? Maybe the stress of the competition." "Stop it." Nari grabbed Diana's shoulder and spun her around so they were facing each other directly. "Stop pretending. I know you planned this. I know you let me take those designs. I know this whole thing was some kind of trap." Diana stared at her stepsister with wide, innocent eyes. The bathroom was silent except for the soft hum of the ventilation system and the distant sound of the building's HVAC. And then, slowly, deliberately, Diana smiled. Not her usual sweet, innocent smile. Not the gentle expression she wore for the cameras and the public and everyone who thought they knew her. This smile was different. This smile was cold. This smile was the smile of a predator who had finally cornered her prey and was ready to stop playing. "Y'all, we have been waiting for this moment. Diana has been playing the innocent victim for so long, and now finally, she's about to show Nari who she really is. The mask is coming OFF. Drop a smiling face with horns in the comments if you're ready for this. Now, let's continue." Nari's grip on Diana's shoulder loosened involuntarily. Something flickered in her eyes, confusion, uncertainty, and for the first time since they were children, a hint of genuine fear. What are you?" Diana leaned in close. So close that her lips were almost brushing Nari's ear. So close that her whisper was barely louder than a breath. "I only beat you at your own game." The words hung in the air between them like poison. Nari stumbled backward, her eyes wide with shock. This wasn't what she had expected. She had come in here ready for Diana to cower, to cry, to beg for mercy like she always did. She had been prepared for denials, for excuses, for the pathetic whimpering of the weak little sister she had tormented for 20 years. She had not been prepared for this. For Diana to admit it. For Diana to smirk at her. For Diana to look at her like SG was the one in control. You. Nari's voice came out as a strangled whisper. You planned this? All of it? The empty portfolio, the media, I planned nothing. Diana's voice was casual, almost bored, as she turned back to the mirror to check her reflection. You planned all of that, Yenny. The media, the public humiliation, the police, that was all you're doing. I simply prepared for the possibility that you might try something. She adjusted a curl that had fallen out of place. After all, you did steal my designs last year. It seemed reasonable to assume you might try again. But when did you? Make a backup collection? Diana's smile widened. Uni, I've been working on Phoenix Rising for months. Long before this competition was even announced. It's the collection I was going to present from the beginning, but then I thought, why not give you a chance to show everyone who you really are? She turned to face Nari, her innocent mask completely gone. So I made a second portfolio. Something good, but not my best work. Something I could afford to lose. And then I just waited. Waited for what? For you to steal it, of course. Diana's voice was matter of fact. I knew you would. You couldn't help yourself. You've been stealing from me your whole life. Why would this time be any different? Nari's face had gone pale. Her hands were trembling at her sides. You're not. Diana, you're not who I thought you were. No. Diana stepped closer, and for the first time, Nari actually stepped back. I'm not. Diana reached out and patted Nari's shoulder, the same condescending gesture Nari had used on her countless times over the years. But don't worry, Uni. I won't tell anyone about our little chat. As far as the world knows, I'm still the sweet, innocent Diana who forgives her family no matter what they do to her. She brushed past Nari, heading for the bathroom door. After all, she added, pausing with her hand on the handle, we'll be competing together in the external competition. We should present a united front, don't you think? And with that, Diana walked out of the bathroom, leaving Nari standing alone among the marble and mirrors, her entire understanding of her stepsister crumbling to pieces around her. The mask is off. Diana just told Nari exactly what she did and how she did it, and Nari shook. Our girl finally got to drop the innocent act, even if it was just for a moment. But here's the thing, Nari now knows that Diana isn't what she seems. The question is, what is she going to do with that information? Drop a performing arts if Diana's transformation gave you chills. Now, let's continue. Diana stepped out of the bathroom and immediately rearranged her features back into their familiar innocent configuration. The cold predator vanished, replaced by the sweet, slightly overwhelmed young woman who had just experienced a whirlwind of emotions. She had barely taken 3 steps when she spotted Yuna waiting for her in the passageway, leaning against the wall with her arms crossed and a knowing grin on her face. So, Yuna's eyes sparkled with curiosity. How did it go? Did she cry? Please tell me she cried. I want to imagine it in vivid detail. Diana allowed herself a small, genuine smile. She didn't cry. But I think I broke something in her brain. Even better. Yuna pushed off the wall and threw an arm around Diana's shoulders. Now we have to celebrate. I'm thinking karaoke, soju, and enough fried chicken to feed a small army. What do you say? Diana opened her mouth to agree. She could use a night of mindless fun after everything that had happened, but before she could speak, her phone vibrated in her pocket. She pulled it out and felt her heart do something complicated when she saw the name on the screen. Min Jae. Hold that thought, Diana said to Yuna, answering the call with her sweetest voice. Hello, little D. Min Jae's deep voice sent an involuntary shiver down her spine. I heard about your victory. Congratulations. Little D? Why not call me little baby, because in your eyes, Mr. Min Jae, I am just a baby. Diana wanted to voice out her thoughts so badly, but she held it in with so much difficulty. Thank you, Min Jae. I couldn't have done it without your help. The way you arranged for me to participate. Meet me outside. His tone brooked no argument. I have something for you. The call ended before Diana could respond. She stared at her phone for a moment, then looked up at Yuna with an apologetic expression. Rain check on the celebration? Yuna's face fell, but only for a moment. Then something flickered across her features, recognition, perhaps, or memory, and she took a deliberate step backward. Actually, you know what? Go ahead. I just remembered I have things. Important things. Things that are not at all related to the terrifying look a certain Mafia lord gave me the last time I tried to third wheel your little, whatever this is. Diana raised an eyebrow. Yuna. Nope. I'm good. I'll see you tomorrow. Yuna was already backing away down the corridor. We'll celebrate then. Just the two of us. No scary men with neck tattoos and murder eyes. Have fun. Be safe. Use protection. Yuna. But her friend had already disappeared around the corner, her cackle echoing off the walls. Diana sighed and shook her head, but she couldn't help the small smile that tugged at her lips. Despite everything, the lies, the manipulation, the mission she couldn't forget, Yuna's friendship was one of the few genuine things in her life. She made her way to the building's exit, composing her face into an appropriately subdued expression. After all, she was supposed to be a girl who had just experienced an emotional roller coaster, triumphant but exhausted, victorious but vulnerable. The glass doors slid open, and Diana stepped out into the late afternoon sunlight. And there he was. Min Jae stood beside a sleek black limousine, looking like he had stepped out of a magazine spread for absurdly attractive crime lords. His dark suit was perfectly tailored, his posture radiating casual power, his sharp features arranged in an expression that might have been concern. Diana walked toward him, making sure her steps were slightly hesitant, her shoulders slightly hunched, the body language of someone who had been through an ordeal. Diana. Min Jae's dark eyes swept over her, assessing. You look sad. What's wrong? Diana didn't answer immediately. She lowered her gaze, letting the silence stretch, playing the role of the emotionally overwhelmed girl to perfection. Min Jae waited patiently. When she still didn't speak, a low chuckle escaped his lips. Come. Get in the car. We'll talk inside. He gestured toward the open door of the limousine, and Diana moved to obey. And then she froze. Okay, stop. Diana just froze. She was about to get in the limo like normal, and something made her stop. What did she see? What's happening? Drop a anxious face with sweat in the comments if you're nervous. Let's find out. Through the tinted windows of the limousine, Diana caught a glimpse of someone inside. A man with sharp, intelligent eyes. A man whose face she recognized. A man who could destroy everything. Jae-won. She didn't know his name, not yet, but she knew his face. She had seen it in intelligence briefings, in photographs passed between handlers, in the extensive research she had done on Min Jae's inner circle before accepting this mission. He was Min Jae's best friend. His right-hand man. A tech genius with a reputation for being able to find information that didn't want to be found. A hacker so skilled that governments had tried to recruit him. And worse, so much worse, she had seen him before. Not in photographs. Not in briefings. In person. 3 years ago. A job in Singapore. A target who had hired private security. She had completed the mission successfully, but there had been complications. Witnesses who had seen her face. One of those witnesses had been a young Korean man with sharp eyes and a tablet computer, running some kind of security diagnostic. She had wondered, at the time, if he had gotten a good look at her. The job had been messy, rushed, and imperfect. She had left without being certain whether her identity had been compromised. And now that man was sitting in Min Jae's limousine. No. No, 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 no. Diana's mind raced at lightning speed. If Jae-won recognized her, if he connected her face to the woman from Singapore, if he told Min Jae, everything would be over. Her cover. Her mission. Probably her life. Diana. Min Jae's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. She looked up to find him watching her with those perceptive dark eyes, his head tilted slightly in question. What's wrong? Why did you stop? Diana's brain scrambled for an excuse. She needed to leave. She needed to get away from that limousine before Jae-won got a better look at her face. Her voice came out strained. She pressed a hand to her lower abdomen, her face contorting in what she hoped looked like genuine discomfort. I'm sorry, Min Jae. I can't go with you. His brow furrowed. Why not? She glanced toward the limousine, then back at him, letting embarrassment color her cheeks. I just started. It's my monthly. Understanding flickered across Min Jae's face, followed by concern. You're in pain? Let me take you to a hospital. No. The word came out sharper than she intended. She softened it immediately with a pained smile. No, thank you. I need to go home and rest. I'm sorry, I should have said something earlier, She didn't finish the sentence. Instead, she turned and started walking away as quickly as she could without actually running, her heart pounding in her chest. Just keep walking. Don't look back. Don't give him a clear view of your face. Diana, wait. But Diana didn't wait. She couldn't. She walked faster, her heels clicking urgently against the pavement, her mind racing with contingency plans and escape routes and the terrifying possibility that her entire operation was about to collapse. Didn't I ask you to leave? Now my pet is scared because of you. And another voice, unfamiliar, male, with a hint of confusion. I've seen her before. I can't remember where, but I know I've seen her somewhere. She didn't hear what else was said. She was too focused on putting distance between herself and that limousine, too busy calculating how much time she had before Jae-won's memory clicked into place. She was walking past a small park when she heard the distinctive purr of an engine behind her. The limousine pulled up alongside her, its tinted window sliding down to reveal Min Jae's face. Get in. Diana shook her head, not breaking stride. I told you I can't. You'll stain my seats? She stumbled slightly, caught off guard by his directness. Yes. I don't have a pad and I don't want to. Min Jae's hand emerged from the window, holding a box of sanitary pads. Diana stopped walking. She stared at the box. She stared at Min Jae. She stared at the box again. Where did you? There's a convenience store 2 blocks back. Min Jae's expression was completely neutral, as if this was a perfectly normal thing for a mafia lord to do. Now get in the car. You can change inside. I'll give you privacy. Diana's brain was still trying to process what was happening. This man, this terrifying, powerful, dangerous man, had stopped his limousine, gone into a convenience store, purchased sanitary products, and was now offering them to her with the same casual authority he probably used when ordering executions. She wanted to refuse. Every instinct screamed at her to keep walking, to get as far away from that limousine as possible, to figure out how to handle the Jae-won situation before she faced Min Jae again. But she couldn't think of a way out. And honestly, a small, traitorous part of her was touched. Okay. She heard herself say, okay, I'll get in. She opened the door and climbed into the limousine and immediately looked around for Jae-won. He wasn't there. The back of the limo was empty except for Min Jae, who had somehow circled around and entered from the other side without her noticing. Where? Diana's voice was hesitant. Where's the man who was in here before? The one I saw when I first came outside. Min Jae's lips twitched with something that might have been amusement. Why? Is he more handsome than me? Diana's eyes went wide. What? No. That's not. I was just curious. I made him leave. What? He made you uncomfortable. Min Jae settled back against the leather seats, his dark eyes watching her with unnerving intensity. I could tell. So I told him to find his own way home. Diana blinked. You left your friend stranded? Because I looked uncomfortable. He's not my friend. He's an annoyance. A pause. And yes, you're more important. The words hit Diana harder than they should have. She had to remind herself forcefully that this man was her target, that she was here to manipulate him, to extract information, to complete a mission. She was not here to feel, whatever this feeling in her chest was. Thank you, she managed. But you didn't have to. I wanted to. Min Jae handed her the box of pads. Now, change. I'll step outside. He opened the door and exited the limousine, closing it behind him to give her privacy. Diana sat alone in the expensive leather interior, sanitary products in hand, trying to process everything that had just happened. He bought me pads. He kicked out his best friend because I looked uncomfortable. He's standing outside in the cold to give me privacy. She shook her head firmly. Stop it. He's a target. A mission. Nothing more. She quickly used the pad, maintaining her cover required commitment, after all, and then smoothed her clothes back into place. A few minutes later, she knocked on the tinted window to signal she was done. Min Jae returned to his seat, and the drivers who had been waiting outside climbed back into the front of the vehicle. The limousine pulled away from the curb with smooth, silent precision. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Min Jae turned to look at her, and his expression was unexpectedly serious. You've been sad since I arrived. Not just now, this started before I saw you. Tell me what's really wrong. Diana hesitated. Y'all, Min Jae is not stupid. He knows something is off with Diana, and he's asking her directly. But Diana has so much going on right now, the competition, Nari knowing the truth, Jae-won possibly recognizing her. How is she supposed to explain any of that? Drop a grimacing face if you're stressed for our girl. Let's continue. Diana lowered her eyes, letting vulnerability seep into her expression. This, at least, didn't require much acting. She was exhausted and confused and more stressed than she had been in months. I was humiliated today, she said quietly. In front of everyone. My designs were stolen again. The media was there to watch me fail. The police came to arrest me. My own father. Her voice cracked, and she wasn't entirely sure it was fake. My own father disowned me. In front of cameras. In front of everyone. She looked up at Min Jae, letting her eyes shimmer with unshed tears. And you weren't there. The accusation hung in the air between them. Min Jae's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. I wasn't there, he agreed. But I knew you could handle it. How? Diana's voice sharpened slightly. How could you know that? I was alone, Min Jae. I had nothing. They were going to arrest me and… You had a backup plan. Diana's words died in her throat. I knew about your backup plan, Min Jae continued, his voice calm and measured. Yuna told me. She said you had prepared a second portfolio, something even better than what Nari might try to steal. She said you were going to be fine. Diana stared at him. Yuna told him? When did Yuna and Min Jae become close enough for her to share MY plans? When did this conversation happen? What else has Yuna told him? Yuna told you, Diana repeated slowly. Min Jae's lips curved into a slight smile. She's quite loyal to you. She wanted to make sure I wouldn't interfere, that I would let you handle things your own way. Diana made a mental note to have a very long conversation with Yuna about communication and boundaries, and the importance of not sharing sensitive information with dangerous crime lords. But for now, she had bigger concerns. She looked down at her hands, folded in her lap. Thought about everything that had happened today. Thought about everything she still needed to do. Thought about the fact that her cover was potentially compromised, her mission was in jeopardy, and the one person who might be able to help her was also the person she was supposed to destroy. And then, before she could think better of it, she did something that surprised even herself. She slid off the leather seat. She knelt on the floor of the limousine. She looked up at Min Jae with eyes full of desperate sincerity. And she said, "Will you marry me?" To be continued. And that's where we're stopping. Diana just proposed to Min Jae. On her knees. In a limousine. I know I'm evil for stopping here, but that's what the subscribe button is for. What is Diana thinking? Is this part of her plan? Is she improvising? Did she just make the biggest mistake of her mission? And most importantly, what is Min Jae going to say? We also can't forget about Jae-won. He knows he's seen Diana before. If he remembers the Singapore mission, our girl is in serious trouble. Her entire operation could be exposed. Drop your predictions in the comments. Fire equals you're screaming at that proposal. Ring equals you think Min Jae will say yes. Crossmark equals you think Min Jae will say no. Face screaming in fear equals you're worried about Jae-won remembering. Exploding head equals your brain is broken right now. Subscribe and hit that notification bell because Chapter 2 is going to be insane. Love you all, beautiful people. See you in the next one. Chapter 2, The Message from Jae-won. Welcome back, beautiful people. The last chapter ended with Diana on her knees in a limousine, proposing marriage to the most dangerous mafia lord in Seoul. I know that cliffhanger was cruel, but that's what keeps you coming back, right? Now, let's find out what Min Jae's answer is going to be, and trust me, this chapter is about to take you on a ride. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now because you don't want to miss what's coming. Let's get into it. The silence in the limousine was suffocating. Diana knelt on the plush carpeted floor, her knees pressing into the expensive material, her eyes locked on Min Jae's unreadable face. The words she had just spoken hung in the air between them like a grenade with the pin pulled. Will you marry me? What had she been thinking? The longer the silence stretched, the more Diana's panic grew. She had acted on impulse, something she never did. She was an assassin, a trained operative, a woman who calculated every move with surgical precision. Though she thought about the pressure she is receiving from her handler, and at the same time, she wanted to borrow Min Jae's power to get all that she had lost. She had no other choice but to make Min Jae marry her as soon as possible so that she can get the information she needed and be done with it once and for all. Having just proposed to a mafia lord in a limousine. I've lost my mind, Diana thought frantically. I've completely, absolutely, certifiably lost my mind. Min Jae still hadn't spoken. His dark eyes studied her with an intensity that made her want to crawl out of her own skin. Was he amused? Confused? Or angry? She couldn't tell. His face was a perfect mask of neutrality. The silence became unbearable. Diana's pride, what little remained of it, finally kicked in. She had to salvage this somehow. Had to turn this disaster into something manageable. I was just. She started to push herself up from the floor, forcing a laugh that she hoped sounded casual and not completely unhinged. Obviously, I was joking. Huh. You should see your face. I was just. Her heel caught on the carpet. Her balance shifted. And before she could process what was happening, she was falling forward, her arms pinwheeling uselessly, her body careening directly toward. Thud. Diana crashed into Min Jae's chest. And their lips connected. Everybody pause. Diana just fell and accidentally kissed Min Jae. Her first kiss happened because she tripped. This is not a drill. Drop a face screaming in fear in the comments if you're screaming. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button and notification bell right now because this story is about to get insane. Now, let's continue. Time stopped. Diana's entire world narrowed to the sensation of Min Jae's lips against hers, warm, firm, and completely still. Neither of them moved. Neither of them breathed. Diana's brain had completely short-circuited. Every training manual, every operative protocol, every carefully constructed persona, all of it evaporated in the face of this single, catastrophic moment. My first kiss, her mind whispered numbly. My first kiss is happening because I fell on him. In a limousine. After proposing. This was not how she had imagined her first kiss. Not that she had imagined it often. She was an assassin. Romance was a tool, not an experience. Kisses were weapons to be deployed strategically, not moments to be cherished. But still. A fall? Her senses finally returned. She placed her hands on Min Jae's chest, when had they gotten there, and pushed, shoving herself backward with more force than strictly necessary. She scrambled to the opposite end of the seat, her back pressing against the door, her hand flying to her lips as if she could somehow take back what had just happened. I didn't mean to. Min Jae's chuckle cut through her stammering. It was a low, warm sound that did something complicated to Diana's insides. He was laughing at her. The most feared man in Seoul was watching her panic like a trapped rabbit, and he was amused. If you wanted to kiss me that badly, he said, his voice smooth as silk, you could have just asked. Diana's face burned. I didn't want to kiss you. I fell. It was an accident. After all, Min Jae continued as if she hadn't spoken, I am your husband. Diana's words died in her throat. What? Your husband. Min Jae's dark eyes gleamed with something she couldn't identify. That's what you asked for, isn't it? You proposed. I accepted. When did you? You didn't say anything. I was processing. His lips curved into that infuriating half-smile. It's not every day a beautiful woman throws herself at my feet and begs for my hand in marriage. I didn't VG. You were on your knees. That's not the same as. It's exactly the same. Diana opened her mouth to argue, then closed it again. She was rapidly losing control of this conversation, not that she'd ever had control to begin with. Min Jae leaned forward slightly, and Diana had to resist the urge to press herself even further against the door. Tell me something, he said, his voice dropping to a more serious register. That mark on your wrist, it seems to be a bite mark. Who bit you there? Diana blinked at the sudden change of subject. Her hand moved instinctively to cover her wrist, even though her sleeve already hid the small bite mark. She had never been entirely sure. I don't know, she admitted. I've had it since I was a child. I think a boy gave it to me. Someone I was close to. But I don't remember clearly. I was very young. Min Jae's expression flickered, something that might have been recognition, or longing, or satisfaction. It was gone before she could analyze it. I see, was all he said. The limousine continued its smooth journey through the Seoul streets, and Diana's mind raced to catch up with everything that had happened. She had proposed. He had accepted. They had kissed, accidentally, but still. And now he was asking about a childhood scar she barely remembered. What is going on? Y'all, I need us all to take a breath because this is a lot. Min Jae asked about Diana's childhood mark like he knows something. What's the history there? And remember, this is the man Diana is supposed to destroy. Her mission is to extract information from him and then eliminate him. And now she's marrying him. Drop a exploding head in the comments if your brain is as broken as mine. Don't forget to share this with someone who needs this drama in their life. Now, let's continue. Diana took a deep breath and forced herself to think strategically. Yes, this situation was chaotic. Yes, she had acted impulsively. But maybe, this could still work in her favor. Min Jae, she said, her voice steadier now, I need to explain why I asked you to marry me. I'm listening. My father. She let genuine bitterness seep into her voice. He told me that the only way I can reclaim my mother's company is if I get married. It's apparently in the will, a condition I didn't know about until recently. This part was true. Or true enough. The actual situation with the will was more complicated, but the core fact remained. Mr. Jang was using marriage as a barrier between Diana and her inheritance. So you need a husband, Min Jae said, to claim your mother's company. Yes. Diana lowered her eyes, playing the role of the reluctant user of kindness. I know it's selfish. I know I'm asking you to do something huge for nothing in return. But I don't have anyone else to turn to. And I thought maybe you might. She trailed off, letting vulnerability fill the silence. You thought I might help you. Yes. Because I've helped you before. Yes. Even though you're openly admitting that you're using me. Diana winced. When you put it like that, I appreciate the honesty. Min Jae's voice was surprisingly warm. Most people try to hide their ulterior motives. You're telling me directly that you need something from me and you're willing to marry me to get it. Diana didn't know what to say to that. I didn't want to lie to you. Even better. He reached out and did the thing he always did, patted her head like she was a small, adorable pet. Diana fought the urge to bite his hand. As my pet wishes, Min Jae said, his eyes crinkling with amusement. We'll get married. For 1 month, as you specified. And then you can have your divorce. Diana's eyes widened. Just like that? You're not going to ask for anything in return? I'm literally telling you that I'm using you, and you're just agreeing. Does that bother you? It confuses me. Diana's composure cracked slightly. You're not supposed to be this agreeable. You're a mafia lord. You should be demanding something. Making threats. Using this as leverage. Why are you being so kind? Yes. Min Jae was quiet for a moment. Then he reached out and took her hand, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her palm. Do you really want to know? Diana swallowed hard. Yes. I fell in love with you at first sight. He said what? Min Jae, the cold, calculating, terrifying mafia lord who has people killed for looking at him wrongly, is claiming he fell in love at first sight. Is he being serious? Is this part of some game? Does he know something about Diana that we don't? Drop a 2 hearts if you're melting right now, or drop a thinking face if you don't trust this man. And please hit that like button if you're enjoying this story. Now, let's continue. Diana stared at him. You, what? I fell in love with you at first sight, Min Jae repeated, as if he were commenting on the weather. The moment I saw you at the gala, stumbling out of place, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with your dress or your makeup, I knew. Knew what? That I wanted you. Diana's heart was doing something strange. Something she didn't like. Something that felt dangerously close to responding. Stop it, she commanded herself. He's your target. Your mission. Whatever he's saying, whatever he thinks he feels, it doesn't matter. It can't matter. But her traitorous heart wasn't listening. Min Jae. Diana's voice came out smaller than she intended. What if you wake up one day and find out that I'm not who you think I am? What if I'm different from what you expect? What would you do then? The question was dangerous. Reckless. The kind of question an operative should never ask her target. But Diana needed to know. Because somewhere, buried deep beneath her training and her mission and her carefully constructed walls, a small part of her was terrified. Terrified of what would happen when Min Jae discovered the truth. Terrified of the betrayal she would eventually have to commit. Terrified of… Knock, knock, knock. The sharp rapping on the limousine door shattered the moment. Diana jerked backward as the door flew open, revealing Jae-won. Panting, sweating, looking like he had just sprinted a marathon in a 3-piece suit. Diana's blood turned to ice. No, not now. Not when we were. Min Jae. Jae-won wheezed, doubling over with his hands on his knees. I finally caught up, you left me on the street. Min Jae's expression went from soft to thunderous in the span of a heartbeat. Who gave you permission to open my door? I gave myself permission. Jae-won straightened up, trying to compose himself, but failing miserably. Do you have any idea how far I had to run? In dress shoes? I think I'm having a cardiac event. Good. Perhaps it will teach you not to interrupt me. Diana was shrinking into the corner of the seat, trying to make herself as small as possible. Maybe if she didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't do anything to draw attention to herself. Oh. Jae-won's sharp eyes had found her. So this is why you abandoned me. You were having a romantic moment with your, he squinted, new girlfriend? Wife? Pet? What exactly is the situation here? Get out. Hold on. Jae-won leaned into the limousine, his intelligent eyes studying Diana with uncomfortable intensity. We've met before, haven't we? Diana's heart stopped. I don't think so, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. She kept her head slightly turned, her hand casually positioned near her face as if she were just resting. I would remember meeting someone so memorable. No, I know I've seen you somewhere. Jae-won's brow furrowed in concentration. Your face is really familiar. Were you at the tech conference in Singapore 3 years ago? No, wait, that can't be right, you would have been too young. Jae-won. Min Jae's voice was deadly. I said, get out. Okay. Sheesh. Jae-won raised his hands in surrender. I'm going. But instead of leaving, he simply moved. Into the limousine. To the back seat. Where he settled in with a satisfied sigh, completely ignoring Min Jae's murderous glare. What? He said innocently. You said get out of the doorway. I did. I'm now in the back seat. Completely different location. Min Jae looked like he was seriously contemplating murder. Jae-won is trouble, y'all. He's already suspicious of Diana, and now he's inserting himself into their space. Diana is trying so hard not to let him get a good look at her face, but she's trapped in this limousine. This is bad. Drop a grimacing face in the comments if you're stressed. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss a chapter. Now, let's continue. The rest of the limousine ride was torture. Diana sat rigidly in her corner, hyper-aware of Jae-won's curious glances from the back seat. She kept her face angled away, pretended to look out the window, did everything she could to minimize his view of her features. But she could feel him watching and analyzing her and trying to figure out where he'd seen her before. Singapore, her mind whispered. 3 years ago. The extraction job that went sideways. He was there, running security diagnostics for the target. He saw me. He might not have gotten a clear look, but he saw me. If he remembered. If he made the connection. Everything would be over. The limousine finally pulled up to the Jae mansion, and Diana practically threw herself out of the vehicle before it had fully stopped. Diana, wait. Min Jae emerged from the limousine with considerably more grace, his long strides eating up the distance between them. We need to discuss the arrangements. Diana forced herself to slow down, to breathe, to remember that she was supposed to be a grateful soon-to-be wife, not a panicking operative. Of course, she said, turning to face him. What arrangements? I'll come tomorrow to speak with your father. We'll finalize the marriage terms and set a date for the ceremony. So soon. You said you needed this to reclaim your mother's company. Min Jae's dark eyes studied her face. I assume time was of the essence. It is. Diana shook her head. I didn't expect everything to move so fast. Second thoughts. No. The word came out firm. No second thoughts. I know what I'm doing. Do you? A treacherous voice whispered in her head. Do you really? Min Jae nodded, apparently satisfied with her answer. Then, before she could react, he leaned down and pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. Diana's face flushed. Tomorrow, then, he murmured against her skin. Sleep well, my pet. And then he was walking back to the limousine, leaving Diana standing on the steps of the Jae mansion with her heart doing backflips and her mind screaming warnings she couldn't quite hear. She watched the limousine pull away, catching one last glimpse of Jae-won's face pressed against the back window, still staring at her with that suspicious expression, before turning and fleeing inside like the house was on fire. Min Jae gave Diana a forehead kiss and called her my pet, and she ran inside like a child. The way this man has her completely off balance is sending me. But we can't forget about Jae-won. He's still suspicious, and Diana knows it. If you're loving the story, please drop a comment and let me know. Your engagement helps so much. Now, let's continue. Inside the mansion, Diana moved with the stealth of a trained operative. She listened for voices. Footsteps. Any sign that the family was awake and waiting to interrogate her. The house was quiet, or at least, her wing of the house was quiet. The family was probably in the main living areas, celebrating Nari's, what? Second place finish? The humiliation of being publicly overshadowed by the stepsister they'd spent years tormenting? Diana didn't care. She just needed to get to her room without being seen. She tiptoed up the servants' staircase, avoiding the creaky third step and the loose floorboard at the top of the landing. Her small room was at the end of the hall, a converted closet that had never been meant for habitation. She slipped inside and closed the door with a soft click. Diana collapsed onto her narrow bed, staring up at the water-stained ceiling, her mind replaying everything that had happened. The proposal. The accidental kiss. Min Jae's acceptance. Jae-won's suspicious stares. The forehead kiss. The way her heart had raced when Min Jae said he'd fallen in love at first sight. What am I doing? She whispered to the empty room. What am I doing? She was supposed to be extracting information. She was supposed to be playing a role. She was not supposed to be developing, whatever this was. Feelings? Her mind suggested. Shut up, she said aloud. Her phone buzzed. Diana reached into her pocket and pulled it out, glancing at the caller ID. Her heart sank. Handler. She answered on the second ring, composing her voice into professional neutrality. This is Viper. Viper. The mechanical, distorted voice of her handler crackled through the speaker. I've been waiting for your report. It's been weeks since we deployed you, and I have received nothing of value. The client is growing impatient. Diana closed her eyes. I understand, sir. I've been working to establish. Establishing should have been completed by now. You were supposed to infiltrate, extract, and eliminate. Instead, you've been playing house with the target and getting involved in fashion competitions. The contempt in his voice stung more than Diana wanted to admit. Sir, I'm close. Very close. In fact, she took a breath. I'm going to marry him. Silence on the other end of the line. Then, repeat that. I'm going to marry the target. Tomorrow. He's coming to finalize the arrangements with my cover family, and we'll be getting our marriage certificate within the week. More silence. When her handler spoke again, his voice was different. Marriage. That would give you access to his private quarters, his personal files, his inner circle. Exactly. Diana's voice was steady, professional. Back on familiar ground. As his wife, I'll have access to everything. The information the client needs, I'll be able to find it. And the elimination? Diana's stomach clenched, but she kept her voice neutral. Once I have what we need, I'll complete the mission. As planned. See that you do. The handler's voice hardened. The client has invested significant resources in this operation. There's no room for attachments. I understand. Do you? Because from what I've observed, you seem to be enjoying this assignment rather too much. I'm playing a role. Nothing more. Ensure it stays that way. Report back within the week with something substantive, or we'll be having a very different conversation. The line went dead. Diana let her phone fall onto the bed beside her, her professional mask crumbling as soon as she was sure no one could see. Attachments. Was that what this was? Was she developing attachments to Min Jae? No, she told herself firmly. I'm using him. Just like I said. I'm using him to get my mother's company back, using him to complete my mission, using him to achieve my goals. That's all this is. But even as she thought it, she could feel the lie settling uncomfortably in her chest. Diana's handler is not happy, and he basically threatened her. The pressure is on. Diana has to complete her mission, extract information, and eliminate Min Jae, but we all know things are getting complicated. Is she really developing feelings? Can she really go through with the elimination? This is getting heavy. Drop a crying face if you're worried about what's going to happen. And if you're enjoying this story, please share it with a friend. Now, let's continue with the next day. The next day. Min Jae arrived at the Jang mansion at precisely 10 a.m. His convoy of black vehicles pulled into the driveway with the precision of a military operation, 3 SUVs, 2 sedans, and the signature limousine, all filled with men in black suits who radiated quiet menace. Mr. Jang was waiting at the door, his face arranged into an expression of nervous welcome. Mrs. Jang stood beside him, her posture rigid with barely concealed fear. They had both dressed in their finest clothes, clearly understanding that this was not a social call. Mr. Shin. Mr. Jang's voice was several octaves higher than usual. What an honor. Please, come in, come in. Min Jae entered the mansion without acknowledging the greeting, his dark eyes sweeping the interior with cold assessment. I'm here to discuss marriage, he said without preamble. To your daughter. Mr. Jang's face lit up like a Christmas tree. Of course. Of course. I always knew you would see Nari's value. She's a remarkable young woman, talented, beautiful, the pride of our family. Nari. He turned and bellowed up the stairs. Nari, come down. Your future husband is here. Mrs. Jang was practically vibrating with excitement, her cold eyes gleaming with avarice. Marriage to Min Jae meant money, power, influence, everything she had ever wanted for her daughter and, by extension, for herself. Upstairs, Diana heard the commotion from her small room. She was already dressed, having anticipated this moment, but she didn't move. Instead, she opened her laptop and pulled up the security camera feed she had hacked into months ago, watching the scene unfold in the entrance hall below. This was going to be good. You all, Mr. Jang thinks Min Jae is there for Nari. He doesn't know that his worthless daughter is about to become the wife of the most powerful man in Seoul. The delusion. Drop a face with tears of joy in the comments if you're already laughing. Now, let's watch Nari's humiliation. Nari descended the staircase like a queen approaching her coronation. She had clearly spent hours preparing, her makeup was flawless, her hair was styled in elegant waves, and she wore a designer gown that probably cost more than most people's cars. She moved with practiced grace, each step designed to showcase her beauty and elegance. In her mind, this made perfect sense. She was the real daughter, the talented one, the beautiful one. Of course Min Jae had come for her. Why would he want anyone else? The fact that Min Jae had never shown her the slightest interest, had in fact repeatedly demonstrated his preference for Diana, somehow didn't factor into her calculations. Denial was a powerful thing. Mr. Shin, Nari purred, reaching the bottom of the stairs and offering her hand like a princess, expecting it to be kissed. How wonderful to see you again. Min Jae looked at her hand, then at her face, then back at her hand. He did not take it. Where is my pet? He asked, his voice flat. Nari blinked. Your what? My pet? Min Jae's patience was visibly thinning. Diana. Where is she? The silence that followed was deafening. Mr. Jang's face went through several colors, red, white, green, back to red, as his brain struggled to process what he was hearing. Mrs. Jang looked like she had swallowed a lemon. And Nari, oh Nari, stood frozen at the bottom of the stairs, her extended hand still hanging in the air, her expression morphing from confusion to disbelief to absolute horror. Diana. Mr. Jang's voice cracked. You want to marry? Diana. Did I stutter? But she's not. Mr. Jang couldn't even form a coherent sentence. But she told us that you were coming for Nari. She's my choice. Min Jae's voice could have frozen fire. Now bring her to me, or I'll find her myself. And I promise you won't enjoy what happens if I have to search your house. Mr. Jang scrambled to obey, his face pale with terror. Diana, he shouted up the stairs. Diana, come down here immediately. Diana had watched the entire exchange on her laptop, and she would be lying if she said she hadn't enjoyed every second of it. The look on Nari's face when Min Jae asked for Diana instead of her? Chef's kiss. But now it was time for her entrance. Diana closed her laptop, checked her appearance in the small mirror hanging on her wall, and made her way downstairs with carefully calculated innocence. Father, she called, descending the staircase with none of Nari's dramatic flair. Did you call me? Is something oh? She stopped mid-step, her eyes going wide as they landed on Min Jae. Mr. Shin, what are you doing here? It was a perfect performance. Genuine surprise. Innocent confusion. Not a hint of the calculation that churned beneath her surface. Min Jae's lips twitched with what might have been amusement. Mr. Jang made a strangled sound. Mrs. Jang looked like she was about to faint. And Nari. Nari was staring at Diana with an expression of such pure, concentrated hatred that it could have melted steel. Diana ducked her head shyly. Are you okay? Did someone trouble you? Min Jae asked Diana, who looked at her stepmom, then her father, and finally Nari, who gulped as their eyes met. Then finally Diana shocked her head. Mr. Shin, marriage is not something we can decide in a hurry. Let's calm down and discuss it because there are some certain. Mr. Jang, I remember a while ago, you didn't waste time to bring out your other daughter when I told you that I wanted to marry one of your daughters. Min Jae turned to Mr. Jang, his voice becoming businesslike. The bride price is already prepared. My lawyers have drafted the marriage contract. We'll be signing the papers today and obtaining our certificate tomorrow. Today? Mr. Jang wheezed. But we haven't discussed terms, we haven't. The terms are simple. Min Jae pulled a document from his jacket pocket and placed it on the nearby table. You sign. I take Diana. End of discussion. But what about Nari? What about who? Min Jae's glare could have stopped a charging bull. I'm not here for Nari. I'm here for Diana. If you attempt to substitute one daughter for another, I will consider it a personal insult. And you do not want to personally insult me, Mr. Jang. Mr. Jang's hand was shaking as he picked up the pen. Min Jae is not playing. He came in, shut down any possibility of them pawning off Nari, and demanded what he wanted. The way Mr. Jang is shaking. This is the power of a mafia lord. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that button. And drop a fire in the comments for Min Jae's energy. Now, let's continue. The marriage contract was signed within the hour. Diana stood beside Min Jae as her father's trembling hand scratched his signature across the paper as the bride price was transferred, an amount that made Mr. Jang's eyes bulge despite his terror, as her life officially became intertwined with that of Seoul's most dangerous man. It all happened so fast. One moment she was Diana Jang, the forgotten daughter, the family's punching bag, the girl who lived in a converted closet. The next moment she was Diana, what? Diana's Shin? Was she taking his name? They hadn't even discussed it. You don't need to pack anything from here. I have a new wardrobe opened for you at home, Min Jae said, turning to her. You're coming with me today. Today? Diana's surprise was genuine this time. But I have some things that are very necessary here. All right, you can bring only what matters to you. Diana's mind raced. Her clothes, her personal items, those were all easily replaceable. But her equipment, her secure laptop, her encrypted communications device, her emergency kit, all of her operative supplies, hidden in the false bottom of her closet. I need a few minutes, she said. To pack sentimental items. Min Jae nodded. I'll wait. Diana fled upstairs, her heart pounding. She moved with trained efficiency, pulling out the hidden compartment in her closet and retrieving her most sensitive materials. Everything went into a special bag, one that required her fingerprint to open and would destroy its contents if anyone else tried to force it. This is really happening, she thought as she packed. I'm really marrying him. I'm really moving into his house. I'm really doing this. The gravity of her situation pressed down on her like a physical weight. She was going undercover, deeper than she'd ever gone before, into the home of her target. This is a business arrangement just for 1 month. So why did her hands keep trembling? Diana is moving in with Min Jae. This is happening so fast. She's packing her secret operative equipment, trying to convince herself this is just business. But we all know it's more complicated than that. Drop a ring in the comments if you're ready for this marriage arc. And please share this video. Your support means everything. Now, let's continue. Min Jae's villa later that day. The villa was even more impressive than Diana remembered. She had been here before, of course, after the incident at the Jang family event, after the rescue from the restaurant bathroom. But those had been temporary visits, moments of passing through. This was different. This was home. Her home. For at least the next month. Your room is upstairs, Min Jae said as staff members carried her bags inside. The master suite. I've had it prepared for you. Diana blinked. The master suite? But where will you? I'll be in the guest room. Down the hall. She stared at him. You're giving me the master suite and sleeping in a guest room? You're my wife. Min Jae's voice was matter-of-fact. Or you will be officially after tomorrow. The master suite is yours. But this is your house. And now it's yours too. He turned to head upstairs, clearly expecting her to follow. Come. I'll show you around. The tour was extensive. The villa had more rooms than Diana could count. Bedrooms, bathrooms, a library, a home office, a gym, an indoor pool, a garden with a koi pond, and what appeared to be an actual ballroom. By the time Min Jae finished showing her around, Diana's head was spinning. This is a lot, she managed. You'll get used to it. Min Jae paused at the door to the master suite. Rest tonight. Tomorrow we'll get our marriage certificate and then you'll be my wife. Something flickered in his dark eyes. Officially. Legally. In every way that matters. He reached out and patted her head, because of course he did, and then walked away down the hall. Diana stared after him for a long moment before retreating into the master suite and closing the door behind her. The room was enormous. A king-sized bed dominated the space, covered in silk sheets that looked like they cost more than her annual salary. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the Seoul skyline. Fresh flowers filled crystal vases. Everything was perfect. Everything was terrifying. Diana unpacked her secure bag first, hiding her equipment in various locations around the room. Then she sat on the edge of that ridiculous bed and tried to process everything that had happened. Tomorrow I'll be married. To Min Jae. To my target. Her phone buzzed. A text message. From Min Jae, she assumed, reaching for it. But it wasn't from Min Jae. It was from an unknown number, the message brief and chilling. I know we've met before. I'm going to figure out where. JW. Jae-won. Diana's blood ran cold. Jae-won is texting her. He's not giving up. He knows he's seen Diana before, and he's determined to figure out where. This is bad, you all. If he remembers Singapore, Diana's entire cover is blown. Drop a anxious face with sweat in the comments if you're worried. And if you want to see what happens next, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. Now, let's continue with the final scene. The next morning, after the certificate, they were officially married. Diana stared at the marriage certificate in her hands, her own signature still fresh beside Min Jae's. The government seal. The official stamps. All of it real, all of it legal, all of it binding. Diana Shin. That was her name now. What have I done? They were back at the villa, sitting in the living room like a normal married couple. Except nothing about this was normal. Nothing about Diana's life had been normal for a very long time. Min Jae was on his phone, handling what seemed like an endless stream of messages and calls. Being a mafia lord apparently didn't leave much time for post-wedding relaxation. Diana sat across from him, pretending to read a magazine while actually watching him from the corner of her eye. Studying him. Learning his patterns. Looking for weaknesses. This is your mission, she reminded herself. Extract information and complete the objective. His phone buzzed again. Min Jae glanced at the screen, and Diana saw something change in his expression. His jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed. A muscle in his cheek twitched. Something wrong? Diana asked, keeping her voice light. Min Jae didn't answer. He was staring at his phone with an intensity that made Diana's instincts scream. Then he looked up at her. And for a moment, just a moment, there was something in his eyes that Diana had never seen before. Doubt. Suspicion. The beginning of betrayal. Diana's heart stopped. Did he know something already? No, that's impossible. She had been so careful. Her cover was perfect. There was no way. Excuse me, Min Jae said, his voice unnaturally flat. I need to take care of something. He stood and walked toward the door, his phone clutched in his hand. Diana waited until he was gone, then moved silently and swiftly. Like the trained operative she was. She positioned herself near the doorway, close enough to see the reflection in the hallway mirror. Close enough to see Min Jae's phone screen as he stood just outside, reading whatever message had caused his sudden change in demeanor. And then she saw it. The text message. From Jae-won. Your pet is not who you think she is. She is very dangerous. Please don't marry her. I will explain with the evidence that I have when we see. I am on my way to you now. Diana's world collapsed. Jae-won remembered. He remembered. And now he's on his way to Min Jae with evidence. Diana just saw the message and she knows that everything is over. Her cover is blown. Her mission is compromised. And the man she just married is about to learn that his innocent pet is actually a trained assassin sent to destroy him. To be continued. And that's where we're stopping. I know. I'm the worst. But that's what keeps you coming back, right? Diana just saw the message. Jae-won is on his way with evidence. Min Jae is already suspicious. And Diana is standing in the hallway of a man who has people killed for far less than what she's done. What is she going to do? Can she escape before Jae-won arrives? Can she somehow convince Min Jae that the evidence is fake? Or is this really the end for our girl? Drop your predictions in the comments. Fire equals you think Diana is going to fight her way out. Wooma running equals you think Diana is going to run. Performing arts equals you think Diana is going to lie her way out. Broken heart equals you think this is the end. Exploding head equals your brain is broken. If you enjoyed this chapter, please hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. And share this video with everyone you know who loves drama, romance, and storylines that make them scream. Your support means everything to me, beautiful people. Every like, every comment, every share helps this channel grow. See you in the next chapter, if Diana survives that long. Smiling face with horns fire skull. Love you all.